Early video games are often remembered for their sheer difficulty, for how often they would teabag you and throw you back to the start of the game. But what if I told you that video games really haven't gotten easier since that time? What has changed since that time is the way that we design difficulty in video games, and specifically the design of pacing in video games. Pacing can look very different from place to place, but it always has the same effect, to make sure that we aren't overwhelmed. To explain how pacing works in specifically video games, we need to peep the skill structure, or the skill house. The skill house has two main parts. The first one is the skill ceiling. The skill ceiling is the tool used to describe the maximum possible depth in a video game. For example, some games let you get really good. This is because they have super deep mechanics that you can practice for hours and hours and hours. You probably know what kind of games I mean. These are games with really high skill ceilings. Some other games, however, can be mastered in about 1 or 2 hours of gameplay. If you were to compare a beginner to an experienced player in a game like this, you would see that they basically play in the exact same way. These are games with a low skill ceiling. The skill ceiling also gives context to the second part of the skill house, the opposite of the skill ceiling, the skill floor. Did you figure that out before I said it? Oh, I'm proud of you. I love you very much. The skill floor is the lowest point of difficulty in a video game. As a rule, the simpler that a game is, the lower its skill floor is. Since the games become, less tangled, you don't have to read a 60-page manual to figure out how to use the action bar. Every part of a video game contributes to the skill floor. Polished controls, effective teaching tools, simple UI. When games are polished like this, the skill floor is lowered, which is good for everybody because it means that you get to give the game a go, even if it's not your type of game. Together, the skill floor and the skill ceiling create the skill house, or skill structure. However, this is not always a happy marriage. The skill house exists in a constant state of balance in every game. Hard games like, say, Dark Souls or Counter-Strike have a higher skill floor because their mechanics go very deep. To still be somewhat inviting to new players, every game has to strike that balance between so unimpenetrable that it's not fun to get into and so shallow that it's not fun to keep playing. When one part of the skill house egotistically hogs all the fun, it's ruined for the other part. And the signs of this humoral imbalance, which I'm sure you've seen it, is usually either a game losing all of its hardcore appeal or a game losing all of its casual appeal. But massive games still fall victim to this. What's the big deal? If every person playing can figure it out, surely the devs can, right? This is where this topic gets hot and heated, so let me just adjust my pants before this. This is where salty video game communities come into the picture.
But if you update the pyro, then the game will be ruined for every spy player.
No, you can't nerf my favorite busted character. How will I carry all my friends who think I'm good? The SMG update literally robbed me of my will to live.
This is the worst thing you could ever have.
Okay, jokes aside, it's very understandable why people get angry over game design. Being held back because of designers' decisions is a horrendous feeling. It's like being told, no, sweetie, you can't play like this because you're just too good. And the skill house lays at the heart of the skill question and to the pacing of video games as a whole. Hold on to your hats, people. I'll hold on to this vaguely Resident Evil 4 Leon S. Kennedy looking at.
Wait here, follow me.
Good use of the skill house is the key to perfect designs. If used right, the lowest point of the skill floor should be at the very start of a video game, where you let the player sit down, get introduced, and relaxed. To share a drink and some stories, to get to know the game. In Super Mario 64, you start out in the big castle courtyard, with only some relaxing ambience in the back. No music, no challenge, no pressure. You're just free to wander about and figure out the controls. This is a great introduction to a game that gets a lot harder later on. And multiplayer games do the same thing, ideally through fun and rewarding tutorial missions or casual play, which will then naturally lead the player into the real steak and potatoes of the game, such as StarCraft 1, Brood War. It has an amazingly fun single-player campaign with a great story, and with a ton of custom maps that add a bunch more playability that all warm you up slowly to that core of super difficult gameplay. And because of Brood War's mountainous integrity with their skill ceiling, the game is absolutely loved, and it's fiercely respected to this day by its viewers and its player base. Basically, instead of putting up a sheer cliff wall, a good game naturally ramps up the challenge to bring the players in. And the ramp is just one style of balancing the ceiling and the floor in tandem. The ramp is a slice of heavenly design. The kind that's just, tastes delicious. But what does its opposite look like? The kind that doesn't shower, doesn't brush its teeth, and that looks at hentai on the bus when you're sitting behind them. Bad pacing. The most common kind of bad design that I tend to see is, paradoxically, usually from really big developers. I would usually call this kind of design, pulling the teeth out of the challenge, so that the game can become more accessible. This is bad because declawing a game sinks the entire skill structure down into the mud. Instead of teaching your player about the challenges you have and letting everybody find their own little way around your challenges, bad design just removes the challenging parts altogether, which makes no one satisfied, because there's no triumph. There's never a skill ceiling to jump up and touch. You probably know what these kind of games usually feel like. Yeah, you get rolled from cutscene to cutscene. Bad design. Every game needs a little bit of that sweet, deserved airtime, when you're just like, wow. And if you remove that lift, you're actually removing what makes your game a video game. I have two very recent examples of this exact thing happening, because they just keep doing it. Red Dead Redemption 2... and The Last of Us 2. Yes, we haven't discussed these games to death just yet. These two were alright games by their own merit, but they really lack that juicy, dripping with that kind of, the big challenge, the thing that you bite into. In the respective developers' quests to make these games as polished and accessible as they could be, to bring the skill floors down so that everybody could come on and have a try, the designers ended up creating something strange and new, something that's a bit more like a TV series, actually, and not like a visual novel kind of way. Visual novels usually are really good about letting their players make big choices to the narratives, and I think that's another factor that both Red Dead and The Last of Us 2 really sorely lacks. In their quest to make these games for everyone, they stamped out all those jumps. No one really had those big highs, but everybody had a basically okay time. They didn't really have those big lifts where you could mark a story moment by thinking, wow, that was a really hard fight. That must really mean something to this game. And I just think it's just such a missed opportunity. Like, it just makes me so sad. Because these games should have blown the feet off for everybody, but a lot of people got pretty disappointed with them. I mean, I'm sure you know that. So I'm gonna have to say, bad design. But you tried. You tried, but bad design. So okay, enough negativity. We've seen some good examples, we've seen some bad examples, or some worse, I don't know, whatever, for pacing and for approaches to the skill house. What can we learn through comparison? Primarily, don't let your vision for the skill floor drag down the skill ceiling. Looking at you, Overwatch. Even though it's really hard to pull off sometimes, there's nothing that we video game players enjoy more than a really well pulled off challenge. It's like the ideal climax to a symphony for like a music listener, or like a perfect performance in a movie for a movie creature. I think that the games that truly pass the test of time are games that do not compromise with their skill ceiling, but that still make themselves as welcoming as they can be. If you came up with an example when I was talking about skill ceilings, think about, how does that game approach the skill house? Does it approach the skill house like a dojo, the way that Brood War does? Or does it approach it more like a fast food joint, the way that a lot of modern shovelware does? I bet that you can come up with a game that has as much depth and integrity as Brood War. And it's very likely that if you come up with a game, it's gonna be a fighting game, because fighting games have this philosophy nailed down. Through the examples I've given, I've moved between single player and multi-boys. But as you can see, the theory holds up for all games, because every game has, in some sense, a skill house and pacing. It just ends up looking and playing different between games. There's obviously more to say, but to wrap up this introductory course, first, designers, don't destroy depth. Through the ramp and solutions like it, you can have the game your way while still not scaring everyone off. And secondly, the skill house paces. Make friends with it and it will reward you forever. And don't take any silly shortcuts. Okay. Before we go, I just want to share, thank you for watching, subscribe for more videos. But I would heartily recommend Trickle Down Balance by a wonderful guy called Uncle Dane. It's a really good video. And if you want to share this video, that would make me really happy if you wanna, but you don't have to. And if you want to share a video with me, then we're live right now on NIS5E on Twitch, or you can put it in the comments, or you can put it in the, Discord, anywhere. I read it. I'm really interested in this kind of stuff, and I love video essays, so put them if you got them. And if you haven't deleted your social media yet, then you can follow me there as well. NIS5E everywhere. In closing, I love you. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Take care of someone else. Goodbye. Oh, did I get it? Please tell me it's over. Oh, yeah. Please? Yes!